And let me offer you a very warm welcome here to the Barony Hall at the University of Strathclyde for a very special occasion where we'll graduate these wonderful graduands in front of me and those that are here on the stage as well. A fine collection of great talent so that we confer the degrees over the course of the next 45 minutes or so. So the Barony Hall is one of the jewels in the crown of our estate. We do many things in here. You probably feel the tension that occasionally we have examinations in here as well. But ultimately, the most important thing we do is graduate our students. This is the autumn graduation season. It began yesterday, where we'll graduate about 1,500 Strathclyders, and back in summer we'll have graduated about 4,500. So 6,000 Strathclyders entering the world of work, or whatever their professional course of action might be, to change the world and make a difference. So please enjoy the day. It's really what it's all about, because today is the celebration that we all look forward to. And I know to the families and friends, very welcome to you in particular, because our graduates are perhaps not entirely off the payroll yet, but you're maybe another step towards that degree of independence as they go into the professions, working with industry, working in the public and private sectors. So we will begin the graduation ceremony. I will invite our Executive Dean of Engineering, Professor Stephen MacArthur, and his team to introduce the students. We'll have those introduced by our colleagues directly. And for those of you that come across the stage, when you get to me, I'm going to cap you, which confers the degree officially, and then you'll go on to get your parchment. And this kneeler here isn't quite social distancing. We're just about past all of that just now. How we used to do it, and I've got 3 degrees from Strathclyde, so I've knelt on this 3 times over the years, from my bachelor's, my master's and PhD. We're a bit more egalitarian these days, so you do not need to kneel before the principal. I will stretch and cap you, but we keep this for a degree of reference to our history and the importance that we place on you graduating from Strathclyde. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, do enjoy the next 45 minutes. And whilst we're here for an important occasion, don't feel overwhelmed by the occasion. So I'm happy that you'll let those that are crossing the stage know that you're here, and you can celebrate with them appropriately as we confer the degrees on them. So with that, let me declare this graduation open formally, and let me introduce the students to you. Please, thank you very much.
Principal and Vice-Chancellor, in the name of the University and by the authority of Senate, I present to you these students for the degree of Doctor of Engineering and Medical Devices, Jake Bagwell. Gemma Kerridge McGowan Egan. For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy for Research in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, Precious Chisala. Christoph Alexander Sauter. Haifa Tabib. David Benjamin Walls. For research in the Department of Electronic and Electrical Engineering, Noor Osama Abdallah Abu Raid. Mikołaj Wojciech Czerkowski. Benali Das. Lara Diaz Garcia. Omar Ahmed Hisham Mohammed El Nassani. Sam Lachlan Harrison. Gary Howarth. Shruti Koratagiri Anathan Kumar. Rory Worthy McPherson. Jennifer Frances Hayward Morris. Stephen Nolan. David Northcote. Rachel Brown Perry. Alistair Robert James Poole. Joanna Sabon. Anastasia Stamulakatos. James Gordon Tate. Eleni Totsopoulou. Sheng Wu. Taibo Chang. For the degree of Master of Science in Biomedical Engineering, Anaka Anakumar. Dromel Arjun Barul. Helda Sofia Canos Atoyos. Ipsa Today. Monica Driver. Faith El Nueri. Anish Vijay Gaj. Lauren Hamilton. Jenna Healy. Naomi Grace Kennedy. Janisata Kuntapun. Rachel Lees. Aniela Margarine Luxford. Nazanin Marsban. Sandra Maria Matthew. Shauna McAvoy. Robert McNaught. Abigail Marie Miller. Daniel Nicol. Vishal Hitesh Patel. Grace Maria Helen Pearson. Wanapong Pongni Sanamonich. Ashwin Pujari. Kavya Premprakash. Harsha Rajendra Kumar. Rasitha Yasmin Shahul Hamid. David Edward Shaw. Rokas das Kunas. Srilakshmi Subhash. In prosthetics and orthotics, Trupti Ranjan Swain. In prosthetics and orthotics rehabilitation studies, Anushika Priyadashani Thalangama Arachiga. In civil engineering, Ali Hassan. Chilok Ng. Kenneth Ifanyan Nwozu. Gaffer Suraj Khan Patan. In civil engineering with geotechnical engineering and project management, Liam Alcaraz Barracliff. Oliver Greenstreet. In civil engineering with structural engineering and project management, George Robert Fender. Reza Gambari. In environmental engineering, Mark Alonso Quartiella. Drill and Kamaj. Sarah Elizabeth Denham. Ali Ret Sahamti Pur Shirazifard. Ilaf Hussein Jabba Jabba. Jennifer Aluoch Oramanya. Colleen McCormick. Witold Adam Sosnowski. Laura Jennifer Taylor. Ralph Kasuma Yila. In environmental entrepreneurship, Peter Campbell. Rian Hamitush. In hydrogeology, Ian Geddes. David Henderson. Simon William Maddox. James William Marsh. Bruno Enrique Matsao de Padua. Nikki Mamuak Ochio. Fern Rowena Simpson. Adnan Zamir. In sustainability and environmental studies, Patrick Dominique Albana. Jack Reef Ashbridge. Charlotte Anastasia Louise Ball. Robert Chan. Ishbel Francis Cowie. Anna Craig. Heather Fletcher. Stephen Headley. Sayeeda Zinia Akbal. Kirsty Ann McMillan. Charlie Malavi. Patrick Andrew Gregson Watson. In 5G Advanced Communications, Sulahat Musa Ubali. In Autonomous Robotic Intelligence Systems, Navdeep Malik. Melvin Peter. Joseph Sabu. Sahil Sandeep Salakar. Prit Rajiv Bhai Shah. In Electrical Power and Energy Systems, Asma Sinul Alone. Darshan Gunasaigun. Nazgul Kodadadi Harari. Neil Mitzi. Hamed Nazad Partaviara. Phonemiat Thor. Syed Mohammed Zain. In Electronic and Electrical Engineering, Asad Arshad. Ayaz Arshad. Amanga Banerjee. Pikriya Elizar Ashvili. Anushka Paresh Gajil. James Higgins. Oliver Toby Emmanuel Kahino. Mohsen Sahab Garam. Ketan Sandeep Shinde. Avyashri Tumka Najaraju. In Future Energy and Power System Operation and Management, Feng Mei Shung. Lap Feng Lo. In Machine Learning and Deep Learning, Feng Shou Godwin Agbula. Toluwa Laki Ibu Kunula Ario. Jack Edward Cherry. Devjoti Badal Das. Gat Sandro Fuertes Osorio. Sadia Mansour. John Aldebaran Muir McMenemy. Stefanos Nikolaou. Nikhil Kumar Patel. Michelle Effie Williams. In wind energy systems, Gavin Leslie Thornley. For the degree of Master of Engineering in Biomedical Engineering, Andrew Robbie Grant. In Civil Engineering, Niall Stephen Brown. Ali Haider. Hadi Kassem. Thomas McFadgen. Aaron Scott. Keir Stewart. Alfie Alexander Torbett. In Electrical and Mechanical Engineering, Lewis Collier. Hans Gilstein Peterson. In Electronic and Electrical Engineering, George Stewart Daniel. In Electronic and Electrical Engineering with International Study, Johan Abgrall. Morgan Lawrence Brunella Bailey. Julian Gueltas Cecil Priam. For the degree of Bachelor of Engineering in Civil and Environmental Engineering, Martin Curry. Emma Vari Robinson. Youssef Tarek Saad Makram. Sean Alexander Hartley. Christian Petrov. In Civil Engineering, Versi Abudar. Alan Frank Corner. John Coyle. Lee Dean. Peter McShannon-Dernian. Ben Kilcoyne. Ryan McRae. Lewis Polland. Ross Smith. Matthew Graham William Wiley. Gavin Andrew Cook. Michael Thomas Langan. Megan Maxine McGaw. Luke Robertson. Shazay Bizaz. Liam Blackman Geddes. Andrew Ian Wiley. Max Christopher Vernon High. Ben Foster. In Computer and Electronic Systems, Daniel Wong. Wan Amrin Jaffni bin Zainuddin. In Electrical and Mechanical Engineering, Douglas Linkiston Harper. Riley Simpson. In Electronic and Electrical Engineering, Magdalena Oliwa Olejko. Cormac Ferguson. Lawrence Lee. For the degree of postgraduate diploma in biomedical engineering, Bhavin Sanjay Maravia. For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy for research in the Department of Electronic and Electrical Engineering, Mohammed Abu Hilala. For the degree of Master of Science in 5G Advanced Communications, Jitesh Suresh. For the degree of Postgraduate Certificate in 5G Advanced Communications, Mohammed Islam Mergerbi.
Right, colleagues, why don't we give the class of 2023 a big round of applause? So, once again, ladies and gentlemen, and to our Strathclyde graduates now, let me reiterate our very warm welcome to this wonderful ceremony, a day that none of you will forget, because it marks the successful conclusion of years of hard work, and now you've graduated before your proud families, your friends, your supporters, and indeed your classmates. Today we welcome visitors from all parts of Scotland, from across the UK, and of course, from across a wonderful and broad international community. We're delighted that all of you have come here to join in our celebrations today. Importantly, your institution here at Strathclyde, we try to value and propose and drive forward freedom of thought because we value that and we encourage that. We're a place that seeks to be both tolerant and inclusive, and where people of diverse national, cultural and social backgrounds come together here at Strathclyde to enjoy excellent education and a shared student experience. Because at Strathclyde we all benefit from having students and staff from around 130 different countries. Ours is a socially progressive community, one that seeks to be an exemplar for modern society. We're plural, we're multicultural, and we try to be enlightened. And it's our responsibility, graduates, it's your responsibility too, to continue to challenge unacceptable practices, including by those in power, by using reason and by exemplifying the best features of modern society. And we acknowledge that, of course, in the knowledge that we are still experiencing war in Europe between Ukraine and Russia, and we are witnessing the daily horrors of the conflict in the Middle East. And there's never been a greater need for a new generation of leaders that are professional and ethical, with a commitment to tolerance and a deep sense of purpose. Namely, graduates, people like every one of you that are graduating today. But of course, most importantly, we're here to acknowledge your hard work, the learning that you've built up, and the successful completion now of your degree programmes, because this will be your passport to making a full contribution to your career and to society, in spite of the flux and uncertainty that we're still currently facing. It's not so long ago we will remember the global pandemic, the current geopolitical shifts, the economic crises that we've been navigating, but we've also demonstrated that what society can achieve when it comes together to collaborate, placing science and engineering and research and innovation at the forefront of finding solutions to the challenges we face. That's what Strathclyde does. That's what you have been doing and what you will continue to do in your careers. Because it was science, universities and innovative industries that delivered vaccines for the COVID-19 virus in record time. And it's science, engineering and education that will help us address other global challenges such as climate change. It seems like an eternity ago, but it was only 2 years ago, just about to this week, that Glasgow hosted COP26. And it's subsequently now going through into COP28, about to launch in Dubai, where the summit of world leaders was drawn together to agree measures to minimise global warming and climate change. There's still much to do, but the Glasgow Agreement did set us in the pathway to accelerate. And as a university community, we have to do everything that we must, and we are acutely aware of our responsibilities to reduce our impact on the planet, as well as producing fantastic graduates like you that will lead us into the rest of this century, and the research that we do that changes the way in which we consume, the way in which we generate energy and how we do our work. But we've now set a target for the university to have net zero before 2040. But in COP26, we took the benefit of Glasgow being magnetised for a couple of weeks, and we found ourselves in the heart of much of what was being done. I had the pleasure of meeting John Kerry, for example, still the US Special Presidential Climate Envoy, and Michael Bloomberg, that well-known business mogul and the Mayor of New York, and, did you know this, an electronic and electrical engineering graduate. And we had, of course, the great honour and the great pleasure of hosting former US President Barack Obama here on our campus for an afternoon, who came to speak to young people, to our students, to a cachet of young leaders who he sought to activate, to challenge leaders in my generation to do the right thing and do it more quickly. He came here very discreetly, you might imagine, because of the security requirements, but through the power of social media, it didn't take too long for folk to find out he was on our campus. Then when he left, there was a group of about 500 admirers to say hello to him and wish him well as he left. And as he left our learning and teaching building, he stopped and turned on his heels on the steps, and before he went into his car, he said two very important words that I'll repeat to you today. And it was this: get active. And I'll say that to you graduates today. Get active in your careers, in the way you engage with society, the pursuits that you have, even in a social sense. Be a proactive change for the better. And Mr. Obama said just that, and it's encouragement that I take as well. Because I enjoy working here at Strathclyde. I've been here for most of my career, but I was brought up in Glasgow, just on the other side of the Clyde in a place called Govan. That town's historical motto is nihil sine labore, or nothing without hard work. And I try to embrace that ethos every day. And I would recommend that you take that approach yourselves. You're clever people, you're highly accomplished, but that element of hard work and application can very often make the difference between getting a solution over the line or getting a task done, even with the intellect that you have and the knowledge that you have. Hard work and application makes all the difference, because today you're now becoming Strathclyde alumni, and you're the latest of the university's torchbearers, just like the many generations that have gone before you. And with all, of course, that you've successfully come through now, I'm sure that you would agree that you couldn't have achieved that without the backing and encouragement of those around you, not least those that are in the hall today. You owe them an enormous debt of gratitude. As the first in my own family to have gone to university here at Strathclyde in the Electronic and Electrical Engineering department, I know the importance of such support. So graduates and staff, please join me in thanking the families, friends and supporters for all that they've done to make today possible. Thank you. And for our fantastic academic staff and professional services staff on the stage with me today, this is a very important day because your success is ultimately their reward. We've worked hard to provide you with a high-quality education and a first-class university experience for all of our students, regardless of background. So, graduates and those in the hall, please join me in thanking our staff for all that they've done too. So as you leave today, I'll leave you with just a historical reference for your institution, because whilst you belong to us as students and now as graduates, we belong to you too. And it's important that you should know and remember, those of you who maybe heard some of this before, we were established in 1796. So we're now 227 years old, established as Anderson's Institution, although I still lead this place and like to think of us like a 200-year-old startup organisation, with the same sense of excitement and purpose as at the time of our establishment. And throughout our history, the University of Strathclyde has remained faithful to our founding principles. And we were established, and I quote in the language of the day, that we were there for the benefit of all mankind. And we were the only higher education institution to be established in Scotland during the time of the Enlightenment, a real cauldron of challenge, of connection to society, of contribution, and that's a real distinction for Strathclyde. And we continue to drive this university forward in that same exciting spirit, making it wholly relevant to the 21st century. Our founder, Professor John Anderson, who was a physicist, or natural philosopher, as he would have been called then, with a strong engineering capability too, I might say, he had close links with Benjamin Franklin, whose name will be familiar to you, the American inventor and academic, who was also one of the founders of the University of Pennsylvania in 1751, under the motto of useful knowledge. And that rang true with our founder, Anderson, who communicated with him, who met him when he came here to Scotland, and influenced his thinking with the creation of Strathclyde's motto of the place of useful learning. And that philosophy has never been more relevant since our establishment over 200 years ago. So this motto carry with you, please. Useful learning is meaningful for us. It's not just a brand or a motto that sits on the shelf. It defines how we do our business. And for example, across our campus and in the buildings that you'll have passed today on the way to the Barony Hall, our academics and our students are developing drugs to diagnose and fight disease. For example, we have several drugs on clinical trials in the areas of cancer treatment, kidney disease, infection management, and inflammatory diseases. Strathclyders are producing energy technologies and policy solutions to tackle climate change and to establish a low-carbon economy. We are revolutionising modern manufacturing technology and helping to create the fourth industrial revolution, or Industry 4.0 as it's referred to, through robotics, AI, automation. And our students continue their work in low-income countries, establishing clean water and power supplies, deploying health and care systems in remote communities, and introducing new telecommunications infrastructure. Our students are bringing prosthetic limb and bioengineering technologies to those in need. And we're also working, of course, to inform public policy here in Scotland and in the UK on national economic strategy, on innovation, education, health and energy, and many more. Our staff in the Technology and Innovation Centre down on George Street, you may have seen that in the way here. That's been a real change agent, not just here at Strathclyde, but across Scotland, working closely with industry on a whole range of topics from low-carbon energy to photonics to pharmaceuticals. And of course, I mentioned the well-known American inventors, and that includes Thomas Edison. And he called his technical teams in his labs his inventions factory. Well, TIC, the Technology and Innovation Centre, has become our innovations factory, driving innovation into this city, driving in investment, creating up to 4,000 jobs that our city needs to lead on to try and transform our economy. And we, of course, have been the stimulus for the creation of the Glasgow City Innovation District, all the way from the river to the Glasgow Royal Infirmary, all the way to George Square. That square mile almost. It's full of innovation, full of Strathclyde people, ideas, companies that are coming here to get access to our people, to our research and to economic opportunity. And we're now poised to the second major investment for the Glasgow City Innovation District, subject to our court's approval, investing in a new hub down on John Street that's looking at medtech, fintech, quantum technology, industrial informatics, 5 and 6G communications, space technology and much more. I mentioned space, but not many people know this and we should celebrate it. Outside California, Glasgow has the largest small satellite manufacturing capability in the world. But 160 companies in and around Glasgow, driving forward that revolution for communications, Earth observation and much more. Much of it being designed, built, researched and deployed through the capability here in Glasgow. Recently, just over 2 years ago, one of our alumni, Dr. Charles Wang, a double graduate from Strathclyde, donated £50 million to our university, the largest donation to any Scottish university historically. And we're using that to invest in our innovation programmes, our business school and our engineering and science activities. And you won't know much about Charles, but you'll know some of his technologies touched your lives over the past 3 years. His company is called Innova Health, and he produced a very large proportion of the world's lateral flow tests. So when we all became amateur chemists in our kitchen, when we were, well, I shouldn't replicate what we were all doing for a couple of years, but when we were testing so that we could go out and we could keep ourselves safe, it was Charles's technology that did that. And he's in the process of creating a £1 billion foundation, the first donation from which came here to his alma mater. And that's what Strathclyde means to people. It's where you were educated, where you were launched, and of course it's a place that you'll always be welcome back to. And we've done similar out at the airport. As you're taking off to Lanzarote or Tenerife or Ibiza, wherever you might be going, or London for business, if you look out the window, you'll see 2 new large constructions, a purple roof building with a serrated top, with a companion building. That's the 2 showpieces of the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation District for Scotland, led by Strathclyde. We own the National Manufacturing Institute. That's that Industry 4.0 challenge that we're putting out to industry and in partnership with them, and the Medicines Manufacturing Innovation Centre, fed by our scientists, our engineers, our business school and beyond. That's revolutionising how medicines are made. And that's also creating about £1 billion of gross value added into the Scottish economy. So for me, that's useful learning in action, to provide business and industry with the tools they need to be more innovative, to promote economic growth, and helping to create jobs and access to careers, and also, of course, supporting a quality of life that's both sustainable and healthy. But most important, what we do here is educate and research and take the opportunity to transform people's lives and the lives of their families. And as I mentioned earlier, we still attract many first-generation students to Strathclyde. And that's some of the reasons why we have had lots of external recognition, which you can share in, because our students are every part of the organisation as our staff. In recent years, we've been recognised at the annual UK Times Higher Education Awards ceremonies. That's a big deal for our sector in the UK, and that's including having won the UK University of the Year twice, the only university to have done so. The Entrepreneurial University of the Year, the Sunday Times Scottish University of the Year, and more, which talks about not just what we're achieving, but how we collaborate and operate as an organisation. And I'm delighted to share with you, just about 6 weeks ago, Strathclyde was named Scottish University of the Year for 2024, and runner-up as the UK University of the Year and the inaugural Daily Mail University League Tables. Alistair McCall, who compiles the rankings and who previously was responsible for the Sunday Times Good University Guide, the league table that I mentioned earlier, he said about us, and I quote, that Strathclyde was the epitome of a progressive 21st century university seeking to shape and change society for the better through its pursuit of educational excellence and social change. And he said, there's still a place of useful learning, just as it set out to be more than 200 years ago. And furthermore, in June this year, we were named European Entrepreneurial University of the Year at the EEE Awards in Barcelona. So these awards reflect the quality and the breadth of what we're doing and what you've been involved in. So we seek to continue to have our disproportionate impacts. Principally, and let's not forget this, the research is fantastic, it's great for reputation. Our biggest contribution to society is all of you, our graduates. You're the change makers, you're the leaders, you're the people that will inspire change, whether it's in health, infrastructure, transport, education, policy, whatever it might be. Our excellent graduates and postgraduates, because we create value and impact. That's what we're all about, useful learning, and we're a driver for sustainable economic growth. And university sector has to be seen as an investment for government, although much of our funding comes from beyond government, from industry and from other sources. And while the government invests around about 1.2 billion in higher education in Scotland, and we appreciate it, the sector delivers back over £10 billion in economic impact every year. So a 10 times multiple, a pretty good investment. And the achievements of the Faculty of Engineering gives me great confidence for the future. And I can only give you a very few highlights of what this faculty has been doing, because the faculty has been, to use a euphemism, knocking the ball out the park over the past year. Let me start with our excellent Dean, Professor Stephen MacArthur, just has been appointed to the board of Scottish Enterprise. And apart from leading this faculty, he's an internationally recognised research leader and expert in AI applications in energy and engineering. One of the UK catapult centres, these are big innovation hubs, the UK's authority around semiconductor applications, have now a presence in Scotland for the first time, attracted here because of Strathclyde, as part of its plans to support industry across the UK. Working here at Strathclyde with the manufacturing centre too, they're looking at power electronics and packaging of power electronics for the automotive and industrial sectors, including energy, aerospace, marine and rail. Again, Strathclyde's capability, magnetising investment. Professor Malcolm MacDonald of the Electronic and Electrical Engineering Department is among more than 70 leading figures in the field of engineering elected by the Royal Academy of Engineering to its fellowship. Malcolm is Chair of Applied Space Technology at Strathclyde and will be formally admitted to the Academy, a special ceremony that myself and Princess Anne will be convening in November. I'm currently President of the UK Royal Academy of Engineering, and we have another Strathclyder joining those ranks. Also, a team at Strathclyde in the Electronic Electrical Engineering Department, along with a university spin-out, were part of a team that have won 2 innovation awards for deploying a standalone pop-up 5G network to support the live broadcast of the coronation of King Charles. Sky, CNN, BBC used those facilities, and it wouldn't have been such an internationally successful broadcast had it not been for the technology that we deployed. Strathclyde is also, of course, involved through our colleagues in civil and environmental engineering, developing technologies to improve nuclear waste detection and disposal. Funded by the UK and in partnership with the Japanese government, this research is supporting the decommissioning journey of Sellafield nuclear plant in the UK and to remove radioactive debris from the Fukushima nuclear accident in Japan. And much more, and I'd love to tell you more, but we don't have the time. Suffice to say, be assured that your faculty and your departments are absolutely at the top of their game. So, graduates, this is the exciting context within which you should view your awards. You're now graduates of a university that places students at the very heart of everything that we do. We value excellence in both education and research, and we create strong connections with society at large, as well as with the business world. And we are an international institution. You just get a sense of that today to see the fantastic assembly of those in the hall with us today. And the world's best universities contribute, collaborate and compete on the international stage, and we're no different. We have many high-quality global partners, including in the United States. We have deep collaborations with Stanford, New York University and MIT, and I'll be with the MIT executive team next week. I'm going out to New York and Boston in business, with strong partnerships with University of Southern California and Waterloo in Canada. In China, we work with Peking and Tsinghua universities, the number 1 and number 2. Myself, Professor MacArthur and others were in China 2 weeks ago, forging these research relationships and the channels for joint education, as well as the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. And importantly, we have a raft of strong partnerships across the UK and in Europe. In spite of the flux that Brexit brought us, Strathclyde remain committed to collaboration and pursuing the European project, as it were, for collaboration and joint educational opportunities. And now, without boring with the detail, with the UK's association with Horizon Europe, we've now got the funding potential to continue our collaborations. And of course, all of you and all of our students generally have benefited directly from being part of an international university, helping you to emerge with the skills necessary for yourselves, for Scotland, and indeed whatever part of the world you may continue to pursue your career in. And our students have been exposed to the richness and the value of different traditions and cultures. And most importantly, when you leave today, graduates, please leave here understanding your obligations as global citizens. And I've mentioned socially progressive. We keep our doors wide open at Strathclyde. We are the leading Scottish research intensive university for bringing young people in from some of the most challenged communities in Scotland. Communities that I belong to and want to leave the ropes and the ladders down and the doors wide open for people to come in here. Almost 1,300 youngsters coming here every day. And whilst we are fourth in the UK for entrance requirements, we still take a very large number of young people with those challenged backgrounds, but with the intellectual wherewithal to come here and pursue their career, dismissing the notion that those that come from these widening participation communities lessen the quality of what we do. Not at all. And every year I start the graduation season in May because we have a programme called the Young Strathclyder programme, where we're currently working with 10 Glasgow schools, and these are youngsters from 7 to 14 years of age. And when they go through a certain part of the programme, they come here to graduate. So we've got 5-year-olds with their gowns and their mortar boards. It's fantastic. They come along this stage with their mums and dads cheering, the majority of them never having been across the threshold of a university, for us to demonstrate and signal these places are for them, just as they were for me and for many others in the hall here. And I particularly love those ceremonies because it's one of the few ceremonies that I get to look tall when I'm capping these 5-year-old students. And if they continue, they effectively get ultimately a PhD so that my academics can participate and anticipate in all of these smart young people coming here back to Strathclyde. So let me move to conclude. Let me characterise Strathclyde in 2023, and I would describe us as being distinctive and having ambition, focus and momentum, continuing our work with the same agility and commitment so necessary to absorb the ongoing challenges in our sector and the political and economic turmoil that we face at home and abroad. It's a true privilege for me to lead this great institution with the outstanding support I get from my executive team, as well from our broader community of academics, professional services and support staff. And I firmly believe that our founder, John Anderson, if he was in the room with us today, and he is in spirit, he would recognise that what we're doing today mirrors what he sought to establish back in the Enlightenment period, i.e. a place of useful learning. And to all of you in the Barony Hall today, I'm certain that today's graduates will have an enormous impact on society and that 2023 can truly become a vintage year. You've shown resilience, maturity, success, and we're all very proud of you. And with that in mind, remember you're now joining a community of over 200,000 Strathclyders out there in the world. There's not a corner of the globe I go to that I don't bump into a Strathclyder, typically in a position of influence, I have to say, that has that pride with their association of the institution. But whatever you do with your degree and whatever you decide to pursue your career, truly useful learning means that you apply your knowledge for the benefit of others. Please make a positive impact for yourselves and the communities that you belong to. Respect diversity, value freedom of expression and thought, and please, in the world that we live in today, always reach conclusions and resolve disputes through reason and tolerance, because these characterise the core values of your university. So, finally, as we turn to today's celebration, because that's what it is, it's a great celebration for all of you. We're here to mark your achievements. So on behalf of the university, I'd like to extend my sincere congratulations to each and every one of you and wish you every success in your future careers. Please stay in touch with us. Let us know what you're doing. Well done again, and please enjoy the rest of this very special day. Thank you. So I've spoken about all this great digital technologies and 6G communications. My colleague Fiona has just given me the best signal, and that was the thumbs up, that it's not raining, which means that once I close this ceremony, we're going to process. If you'll be upstanding in a moment, we're going to process, and we're going to march up to the Learning and Teaching building, where there will be refreshments and an opportunity to mingle and say hello to friends and colleagues. So with that, colleagues, I will declare the ceremony closed, and I will ask you all to be upstanding. Thank you very much indeed.